Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Englix Broadcast. For a while now, I haven't done any interviews. I think the last one I did was with Vernell, Jeffrey Dahmer's real life neighbor, and that went viral. And we did a lot of work with Vernell, and great guy. But I think one of the most memorable interviews in I don't know, my 50 plus interviews, some of them that I published over here, was with Charles Stead. And it was another episode that was kind of very valuable to my audience. A lot of comments over there as well about sales and marketing, life in boiler room. Today, I'm going to have a guest who could expand on that a little bit with his extensive experience in this field. From a particular point of view, uh, I'm going to focus on call centers, BPOs and their business models. Most importantly, how are they actually solving business problems? A lot of international trends around it, scams, uh, emerging tech and its impact, a whole range of topics. But most importantly, today's episode is going to be a special one because not only it's a comeback for me, it's going to have a fantastic guest who is charismatic and has built a business out of Costa Rica, small island nation, if I'm not wrong, which is very, very impressive. So, um, it is my honor to introduce you guys to the screen the owner of Costa Rica Call Center, the one and only Mr. Richard Blank.
So happy to be here today, Saurav, and I love your show, your audience, and I can't wait to share my secrets with everybody.
Well, you gotta be careful though, because people do take notes on the internet, and your competitors are at this moment either crushing your business or watching this and taking notes. So let's start with competitors. Okay. Do you love them? Do you hate them? What's going on?
Well, I don't fear them. That's just a morbid anticipation. I know that if I prepare for it and I'm stable and balanced, I'm going to give my best shot. And so the fact that I've almost completed 16 years in this exceptionally competitive industry, I think the market speaks. And so you need to treat your people well in the call center industry. They're not expendable. Give them their dignity. And as long as you invest in them and you give them positive reinforcement, there's no reason why they wouldn't stay with you.
Costa Rica is quite interesting. It's quite sexy as well. It sounds pretty sexy. Would you
Oh,
like
yeah.
to give a little bit of briefing about that? Why did you move to Costa Rica? Are you originally from there? You're like a mystery. Let's uncover that.
Well, first, let's explain where it is. We are north of Panama, south of Nicaragua. Costa Rica is the only democratic society in Central America, so there's no standing army. There's a 95% literacy rate. We're considered the most neutral of English accents in Central America. We're known for ecotourism, medical tourism, and it's just a fun place to retire and have fun. But I'm a Philly boy. I'm from Northeast Philadelphia, right? Graduated the proud Abington High School in 91 and decided to double down, my friend, on my favorite language, which was Spanish. So unlike my friends that fell into certain pressures, family career expectations in medicine, in law, or family businesses, I decided to follow my passion. So I was a Spanish major at the University of Arizona. And then in August of 2000, I moved to Costa Rica to work at my friend's call center for just a couple months to teach English. And I don't know what they say in India, but in the United States, if that barn door is open, that horse is gone. And so I decided to get past my parents' guilt and to live almost a spiritual life because something was calling me. I didn't see any negativity in these decisions. And the fact that I was being embraced here as a guest in this country, fell in love here, married the girl of my dreams, and started a business here. Obviously, the soil was good here for me to grow. And sometimes in life, my friend, you have to make those bold decisions.
Is there a blueprint to it, though? That's another question. I mean, you talk about it. It seems dreamlike. Oh, I'm gonna move to this heavenly place and have the retirement of my life, at the same time run a business, and then to, marry the girl of my dreams. But the thing is, the blueprint in itself, it must be very stressful. So give a little glimpse of your struggles as well.
Of course, but no two snowflakes are alike, nor thumbprints. And so for you to get a blueprint to be a CEO, or you, my good friend, is a well-respected journalist, yeah, you can follow in the steps of people that came before you and mentors, but there's always a 10% zig and a zag, the thing that metaphysics throws at you that you're not sure how to handle. And so a lot of the time you either believe in others or believe in yourself. And if you prepare things and have checkpoints in life, then maybe you realize you're not too far away from your path. And for me, at a very, very early age, I saw a lot of positive looks and energies to what I was doing. I wasn't hurting anyone. I wasn't breaking windows. It was different from all of my friends because most people weren't doing it. But what are the tough parts of this? It's maturity, it's impulse control, it's handling your finances. And if you're comparing yourself to a Bill Gates or a Steve Jobs or just, anybody that has done something that you think is superior to you, well, mind you this, there could be only one king, but there's so many princes in this world. If you can settle with at least elevating yourself, but how can you compare yourself to others? Who even knows what was behind their kitchen door and what sort of assistance they got? You don't know the whole story A to B. You only see what you read about and what they show on TV. But you asked me about the struggle. The struggle is getting up on a rainy Monday. The struggle is calling your client and being forthright that something happens. And especially in my industry, the attrition. After investing so much in someone and watching them shed skin and grow and adding momentum, at least have some professional courtesy if you see other opportunities or you'd like to leave. There is a 2 weeks notice or some sort of way to end a relationship strong. So that was the reality check, my friend, that people weren't just going to be with me for 40 years for that gold watch. I realized there is natural attrition. And as long as I, in my own heart, don't have it heavy and realized I did everything that I could in order to pay it forward and move somebody along, then I was able to live with myself after that period of time.
Interesting. Kings, princes, dukes. Would you identify yourself as a salesman or a manager or a business owner?
Oh, my good friend, I see myself as an educator. Your audience has no idea the past 12 months it took me to get on this show. All the emails back and forth, and you and I just still being interested in one another. And I did pass your filter and your
I'll tell you what. To your credit, I think you have your way around this. I memean, that's a great sales prowess. That's just phenomenal, because a lot of people would have just like, I have worked with PR folks all the time, and I get hundreds of Haro requests, hundreds of PR agencies reaching me. They reach to me one time and they forget about it, and then they reach out to me on another topic. But you stayed your course. I don't know how did you do it, because usually people forget about it. So
because we anchored, we had something in common. It was enough of a spark to last 12 months. And I must have made enough of an impression and didn't exceed any sort of boundaries that you have, that when I did reconnect with you, we just picked up where we left off.
No, this is crazy. A lot of things happened in my life since since we touched base first. I did a lot of things career-wise and all. So it's crazy that I'm following up and doing this interview. But I'm glad I did it, man. I really want to get some perspective from the sales world, because you know what?
Sure.
Okay, you're an educator, you said, right?
Okay. Putting the label aside, because I don't like to force hands. I love rhetoric and I love positions and understanding someone's position and dissecting it. So if you want to call me a salesman, fine. I can easily compete in that wheelhouse and score very well. I have in other sort of metrics and other sort of verticals. And so what compares me to a boiler room salesman or someone that you see in Hollywood? Well, this is a very strict Catholic country, so I can't compromise ethic, values, or morals at the call center. That's number one. They have leverage. They could work at Amazon tomorrow. So by offering something that's not a good fit, they just won't take it. So we're very selective. It's not being selective. I just want to make sure that the tone is appropriate. It's not aggressive. It's just assertive. Since English is their second language, I don't want them to use lazy vocabulary, or let's just say something that could be misinterpreted, like the word help. I preferred guide, assist, or lend a hand. Other sort of soft skills that we apply, my friend, to prolong conversations, to not get the hang up, and to marinate a little bit is falling on swords. For my clarification, for my edification, your dog's barking, your bad cell, your noise in the background, that's my problem. These are the sort of things that I'll take for you. I'll clean the spill and pay for the bill. It's not that big of a deal. I just don't want to ruin this little happy tone that we have at the moment. We're preserving that. And we like to rake answers. You were mentioning open-ended questions. Yeah, I love hearing people's answers. And I like to use the military alphabet because you, my friend, have an exotic name. And I just want to make sure emails don't bounce back. And maybe I could be one of the few people that actually pronounce it properly or even tried.
Go ahead, try.
I would say Saurav.
Okay. Oh, okay. That's one of the least.
That's a Philly accent.
Yeah, the least worst one, but yeah, I'll take a Philly one. They say, and I asked this to Charles as well. Unfortunately, you're probably not in touch anymore, but fantastic guy. He has this live stream every single day where he cold calls and he sells printers mostly. I asked him if sales is indeed stressful, because people look at a sales job monotonous. You may have to make hundreds of calls. Is it pseudo stress or is it actual stress?
It's like the gym. It's muscle memory. As long as you're not doing something where you're cursing, screaming, or taking it, it's part of the game. You take one in the chin. You bleed when you make calls. How about this? And he's a seasoned pro. I mean, that was the episode that I listened to that made me touch base with you, because it's a colleague of mine. It might be a different type of style because of where he lives in the world and the type of calls that he's making. But I do respect the art of speech. And so what I try to do prior to, let's just say, worst case scenario, the hang up, I call it jumping clouds or a romantic death. Follow me here. It's only 30 seconds because the rest of the call doesn't even exist. But in the first 30 seconds of the call, I can do a company name spike. I can actually say the name of the company better than the person that answers it. I can also properly introduce myself with what we call buffer boomerang technique. They ask my name in a negative tone, I could name drop them, tell them it's an excellent question, repeat the question, and send it back better. And so I can soften them up a bit. And then when I get transferred, you do a positive escalation where you mention them verbally and in writing, someone that assists you. So when you call the company back, they might add to your momentum. And so anything and nothing for at least 160 calls a day. If you're using a dialer 400, you're at least having romantic deaths because your company name spiking, you're making nice, you're trying to listen, compared to just saying, hey, may I speak to the owner, or just trying to angle your way in there. And so by doing so over the course of 2 decades, and studying tens of thousands of phone calls, I always believe in buying time. I'll go with the prices, contractual terms, and all the bells and whistles that come with it. But you got to snap people out of that cold call with companies. And so instead of concentrating on the 9 minutes and 30 seconds of the end, that doesn't even exist. If I can't anchor with you within the first 30 seconds, your pitching doesn't even count. And that, my friend, is where the pressure comes, because most people are just trying to compare themselves to other, grind out the calls, wince, and hope for the best. While me, I say, hey, if I could, strangers or friends you haven't met yet, and maybe brighten Catherine's day up because I'm Mr. Sunshine making a phone call, and maybe doing 2 minutes of a due diligence of your company to talk about your pinball machines and Art Deco building and 16th year anniversary, then maybe, just maybe, I might buy some time. And if I can then put my other arm up, then I might be able to pull myself up. But so many people just want to start chucking in arrows and seeing how slick they are and giving you the next perfect line to get in there. And that will work. But to me, those are ones and dones. If I tried that on you, I wouldn't be here today. You, my friend, are the perfect case example of it, of your audience listening to you. And so for me, once again, was keeping that boundary, that relationship, and understanding where we're connecting. And so that's how I'm successful in business. Yeah, there are people with better contractual terms, cheaper than me, or whatever they'll do to earn your business. But at the end of the day, I've been able to build a foundation by doing the things that my grandparents taught me and things that have given me friends for over 5 decades and a beautiful marriage and good friends. And so by living that sort of simple, humble, balanced life, the riches do come. And I think you understand that, my good friend, that you do. Yes.
I worked in sales sometimes, and it is a rewarding career. It's not like the commissions are good. But then again, you have to push through it more than any other field. And when they say that everybody is a salesman, that you have to be, if you're a doctor, you have to be a salesman. If you're a lawyer, you need to be a salesman. That's a good analogy. I don't know if you believe in that though. If you'd like to.
Yes, but when you say musician, it could be from classical to metal. So when you say salesman, can I just put a subcategory to that then, please?
Please.
It's bedside manner. It's empathy. It's not just attention, it's true interest. Because fine, you want to put me with Blake at Glengarry, Glen Ross, or Boiler Room, or whatever movies you want to refer to. Thank you. I really appreciate that. The Wolf of Wall Street. But the difference is those long-term relationships when someone remembers something about you, or as you see, keeping up that sort of relationship because it is important. You're not my best friend, but you are my friend. And that was the most important thing that we were building upon. And I just wanted to keep showing that good faith to you. Mm-hmm.
I think if you take more interest in other people and you genuinely want to help someone out, it will eventually help you out. And it's practical. I have seen it happen to me as well. When you just seamlessly want to just, extend some value to other people's life, it works well for you as well.
If you do it in a selfless way, then it's even that much better, because that's when the cameras are off and you did it from your heart. And that's when you'll have a friend for life.
Yeah. And it's one of the ways where you could actually push through the stress of making 100 monotonous calls and all the rejections.
But what is that stress, though? Okay, so it's the endurance of the phone call and it's the reaction to the hang up. Is that correct? Those are the two levels of stress?
I think that my hypothesis is that both the rejection and the 100 monotonous calls, although you can train people with the script with that 100 calls, right?
Yeah, sure.
But the rejection, you cannot. Can you possibly teach them how to get rejected? Well,
yes, everyone needs to slow down and calm down and take deep breaths and realize this is what you signed up for. You're not cutting flowers on the corner, or doing shish kebabs. You're doing telemarketing. I mentioned earlier romantic deaths and jumping clouds. I do believe that in Spanish we say por lo menos, which means at least. If I can at least get something from the call, regardless of the outcome, then I've gotten my money's worth out of it. I'll give you 3 examples. If I speak with somebody and they want me to have agents speak Chinese, we don't do that here. By default, I can't take it. 24/7, don't do that. Can't take it. The same price as offshore centers in the Philippines. Can't match them. Can't do it. But how about if I'm the best friend with the guy on the phone for 20 minutes, dying to do business with one another? There are some times It's just not a perfect fit. There's one piece missing. And so you can't take that personal. Let's go back to our relationship. It wasn't the right time for us to do the podcast last year. Now, let's just say you're a one and a done. But how about if I built a pipeline and I had 76 other people like yourself that weren't ready at the moment, but told me to call back or just communicated with me? Let's say I had 7,000 of them. And so it's the sort of thing where you can cold
Right.
call close people.
Pipeline. You know what? Pipeline is the key. Yeah,
Of course
it
it
is.
is.
It is the key.
It is the key. And due diligence, so you can custom make a voicemail or an email. Just don't say sir and just give them the template. Just put one or two things in there just to show that you made additional efforts.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. All right, Richard. It's time to teach those senior sales management managers a lesson, because you do own your own call center.
Yeah.
You're a trainer and you manage a lot of people. There's a boom in edtech sector in India, and they have aggressive telemarketers. I don't know if you know what the White Hat Junior case study. I'm not going to talk about it much.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not also going to say that I worked for there. I did work there as well, and I was one of the best out there. I made them shit ton of money. I made shit ton of money. But there was a moral time there, when the controversy broke out, that all of these people coming out. I realized, okay, wait a second. I got a public image and I have to make money. What do I have to choose? A public image it is. You mentioned ethics at one point. You have to focus on the ethical part of it. My question is, how do you identify those ethical pointers?
When you lay your head on a pillow or you look at yourself in the mirror. I don't know you that well, and I don't even know anybody that well, but I know myself. And if somebody can't look at themselves in the mirror, and you were mentioning this dilemma that you had in your public persona, I could literally care less about what somebody's opinion is unless I care about their opinion. The most important thing is your core, is your balance first. This is your soul that we're talking about here. This is a gift of life that was given to us. And I don't want to sell it for $1. And I always believe, and you ask me the tough questions about an entrepreneur, it's usually about when your water runs out in the desert and do you have enough energy to make it over the next hill to see if you find an oasis?
Ooh,
I do.
That's a great analogy.
And that's what I'm trying to do in life, is to realize on how I was raised, my education and my surroundings, and just the beauty of life, that maybe I'm just given signs to continue. And that's the nicest thing ever, is when you have that full confidence in yourself to carry forward. And so, but I was also smart. I mean, you always have reserves. Throughout the years, naturally, you build upon savings and relationships and stability. But even in the beginning of this entire journey, I had such vigor. I had such grit. You see the snow on the top of those mountains, and I just wanted to go. And so I was willing to risk my entire life to try. So at least if I look back at my life, I could look at myself in the mirror.
So no regrets thus far?
No, I got plenty of regrets. I wish I asked that one girl to dance in 8th grade. No, I'm only kidding. But yeah, but you have to forgive yourself in other stages of life. Maybe you didn't know then, or you weren't aware then. And so I just think a lot of people are very hard on themselves. And so I think it is about shedding skin. And if you're able to make peace with certain things in your past, or if you're capable of not just saying you're sorry, but just trying to listen to people, then there's a very good chance you'll feel much better. And I've tried to be not the bigger man, but I've tried to be the one that spoke second, because there might be some misconceptions. I could allow someone to get it out. And then maybe with the luxury of time and the sort of strength of the relationship, I've been able to make things better.
Okay. You've been doing it for 16 years, though. You've been successful. Is there a retirement cap on your mind? Like you get, oh, I got a financial plan. I'm gonna turn 60 or 70.
Yeah,
May I ask?
yesterday. I wish I retired yesterday. I wish I found oil or gold somewhere. but um, but I'm happy with what was built. Think about it like this. If I'd stayed in the United States and worked at my family's business, that would have been a different trajectory. Earnings would have been different. If I'd
Right.
stayed in Philadelphia, there's another thing with all those connections. So
Mm,
sometimes it's the price that you pay to start from scratch. And I think that's the
mm.
nicest thing ever. When you really look at the zigs and the zags of life, the fact that you literally created something from nothing. And so I was willing to sacrifice certain luxuries and retirement ages to live a little bit different sort of lifestyle. But how about this? I could retire tomorrow. Things wouldn't change in my lifestyle. And it's not like I'm spending $1 million a month on yachts and jets and stuff like that. I have certain tastes. And so all I know is this, that I'm very thankful for the fact that I believed in my educational interests as a young man. Because if I had become something else, an engineer, a lawyer, anything, if I had I might have been successful, but there would have been something in me that wouldn't have felt fulfilled. And so I
Gotcha.
needed to do this thing abroad and with languages. And it just so happens that blueprint of the call center just kind of fell into it.
Mhm. Lead generation is one of the important parts of this business, right? So, what are the tips, tricks that one should follow? Are there any particular tools you guys use to generate leads, or do you guys buy it from another company? Is it a B2B affair?
The clients apply it to us. It has to follow all DNC rules. And naturally, we use dispositions on them to let them know the validity of their lists.
Hmm.
But I think one of the greatest things we have here is our quality control department. The fact that all calls are recorded, people grade them for KPIs. But, the greatest form of education is self-analysis. And so when the agent, the
Exactly.
supervisor, listens to themselves, they realize if they missed a spot shaving. And they know better. Their timing was off. And so besides discussing what I'm paying them to do, I try to expand a little bit on their reliance and confidence skills to expand conversations. And so we
Right.
talk about certain timings when they could have asked a follow-up question, or they could have used more diplomacy in order to reduce the sort of tension from a customer call. And so I find it fascinating. The only challenge we have are people being in the now, because either
Right.
jumping ahead or thinking of the past. They really got to be in that good 10 to 15-second sort of window to be able to catch the sort of sight unseen signs. Because how about this? Face to face is great. Your five senses kick in, but you remove taste, touch, and smell. Your hearing should be expanded, and you should be really expanding upon your adjectives and your image streaming and vocabulary to make your speech much more colorful. So it's a painting. And so I've really encouraged people to bring that out of them, their expressive side, to be able to somehow connect with people on the phone to reduce tension and to try to paint a picture for them.
Would you identify yourself more as a closer, or, I mean, anything of that? Is there another compartmentalization, any other categorization would you like to put yourself in?
Mention it and I'll tell you if I qualify. I obviously am a closer because I'm on your podcast today. Yeah.
Okay.
Closer. Live in
Closer it
front of
is.
everybody. But
Well, without closing, you probably, like, that's the most important skill in sales, isn't it? Closing. Or do you think anything else comes above? Like, do you think ethics comes above closing? Don't you think if you're unable to close, ethics goes down the pipe?
let's look at the philosophy behind it. As hard as I try, trying to get into this castle,
Mm,
you closed the deal. As much as I can charm you and all the bells and whistles, the beauty of it is you. So it's not me being the closer. You're the closer. And so I keep trying to, once again, tap into you, separate myself from what other people have done, which just sounds so cookie cutter. There's no straight lines in nature. And I really try to do things in a woo way, natural sort of philosophy, because I think I'm a nice guy. And I think when people take down their masks and they become vulnerable, it makes them powerful. So maybe they might share a story or two about themselves. And that's when you put the selling aside. And that worked for me. That's how I paint. And I could be more aggressive, but it's not me. And I wouldn't feel comfortable with it. And so everyone has their own way to do this dance. Look at old school grandpa on the porch compared to the hot shot downtown out front of the store selling Porsches. It's two different types of people. Some people love grandmas that will sell you extra pie. And some people expect a slick bartender to sell you that drink. In your mind, what is a salesperson? In my mind, when you ask me what a convertible is, I think of a 92 Cabriolet. So you have to understand the second and third depth question of somebody. I could mention sweets, ice cream, favorite food. Yours is not mine. Me today, you tomorrow. And so it's very important for people to see second and third levels of people. So then that's how you connect with the individuals.
All right, fantastic. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is the part one on the interview. We're going to take a quick 1 minute break and finish this podcast. On the other side of the podcast, we're going to talk about the global economy. We're going to talk about international competitors, Indian market, and more. So stay tuned. Just 1 minute, all right? Just 1 minute. I have to take care of my dog. Oh, okay. Are you there yet, Richard?
Still here, my friend. How are we doing so far?
It's pretty good. A quick word from the sponsor, and then we're gonna. Well, my dog was barking, so I had to open the gate. Okay.
Everyone loves dogs.
Okay. All right, part two of this episode. But before we go forward, a quick word from the sponsor. Well, Haro communities are quite active and they connect publicists with journalists, but look no further to develop better media relations with a news tip. A news tip is a cutting edge, not that expensive as other players. This is a fantastic database of all things journalism, all the journalists and journal requests. So if you have a particular niche where you want to publicize your work, use a news tip. It is personally recommended from a journalist point of view. Without a further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Richard Blank on a candid conversation.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Richard, it's been an interesting couple of last years, right? Post-COVID, we saw a boom in the work from home, division, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people were working from home. So what was that time like for you?
On a
Did a
personal
lot of
level,
people, did a lot of people try to work from your real estate, or did you employ people from home? What was business like then?
uncertain. And the country closed its borders. There was a ton of restrictions. I'm far away from my family. People were rushing to the supermarkets for toilet paper and food. And you had to put yourself in the agent's shoes. They were concerned about their families. They didn't know what was going to happen tomorrow. Nobody did. And so for me, I was more than fortunate to be able to still be considered in Costa Rican labor law an essential business. And through technology, the agents were able to work at home. Naturally, since everyone knows the call center industry, they didn't have the internet redundancy like the brick and mortar center or the backup generator or immediate IT support. But through setting up a CPU and working with them through VPNs and supervisors communicating, we were still able to hit the metrics. But everybody knows it reduced the synergy. I mean, the greatest thing of work is having a best friend and spending time with someone. Sure, it saves time and money. I totally understand and respect that. But it kind of destroyed the camaraderie that these beautiful artistic environments created at a call center. And so for me, legally, we are only allowed 50% of the people on site. I chose only 20%. It was for PCI compliance or for people with, certain situations at home where dogs are barking or, it just was an uncomfortable environment. Or if something does happen at home, they could be on a turnkey station within a couple minutes. But for me as a boss, I was taking it as a daily basis. Naturally, I felt that I had more momentum when people were on site and I could stand next to them during a phone call or do that live coaching or breaking bread with them downstairs. But no, we used the technology to our advantage and tried our best. And I tell you what, it is fun to see what people do have in the backgrounds of their homes, stuffed animals and other things in their rooms. And so you make nicknames and you talk about that. But I was fortunate. A lot of businesses closed and they had their hands tied. And so for me, beggars can't be choosers. I accepted the sort of laws that were here and adjusted accordingly. But I tell you what, this was very interesting. A lot of people that I depended upon disappointed me so. And there are a lot of people that were new or just were there that completely stepped up to the plate and showed the utmost character during chaos. And so a lot of them are my current supervisors and people who are holding to such high esteem because I'm going to say it again, when the chips were on the table and there was a lot of movement, I had some people that showed sincere loyalty and just wanted to make sure that all of us were okay. And I really respect people like that.
Apologize. How different do you think a BPO is from, or a call center is from, a traditional boiler room? Is there any different? I don't know. Could we compartmentalize them?
I can easily give it to you. The boiler room, it's because it was down in the basement, no, windowless and hidden. You shouldn't be in a boiler room. If you're doing something that everyone's proud of, you should have big bay windows like my call center does. And also, if a center is doing something unethical, it shouldn't be open because no one should be showing up to do those jobs. BPO, business process outsourcing. I mean, let's just broad stroke it. It's really about the infrastructure. It's about the discipline, the training, the onboarding, and the accounts and what people do. Just unfortunately, like fire, some people can use it for life and for health and for light, but it can also use to burn. And so these advanced speaking skills and convincing, acrobatic wordplay, this is how these people get these reputations for scamming. And it's dangerous. It's one of those things that has, a venomous tail to it. And so everyone has a story of someone that took money from them or took advantage of them. It doesn't have to be financial. It could be emotional. It could be anything. And so to talk about boiler rooms, you have people with incredible skills and talents, and they can earn the same money being someplace that's ethical where they can make a public name for themselves. They're just going a little bit quick and not thinking long term because life is long and a lot of people know everybody. And if you think that you have these skills, then do the things in the proper way. But listen, these environments, it's like honor amongst thieves. I could only imagine what these people must feel like when the next person rings the bell knowing that he took advantage of somebody for $5,000 and he's going to get his $500 commission on that because he made his cut. And everyone's envious of that individual because he was so convincing to get somebody to send something somewhere and not receive anything in return. And so maybe it's how they were raised, or the individuals with whom they surround themselves. But you're asking me, and it's very difficult for me to put myself in that position because I would never be in that sort of position. But since I am in this industry, I can analyze it for you. I think these people are exceptionally well skilled. They're well versed. Their scripts are tested. And they have individuals that might be on motivating them, but it's almost like a military sergeant to get them to kill. And the ones that can't handle it drop out. But the ones aren't hard on them. They're just the ones that keep pushing them to remind them about that Porsche they're going to buy or that fantasy vacation they're going to take. But the beauty of this is I can use the same rhetoric for people here that grow with companies and have certain campaigns that are lucrative. And so it's the same message, it's just a different delivery. But I do believe that people can make a wonderful career working at call centers. And if you develop these skills, these are things that can be used outside of the office to preserve families and to make nice, and to have a nice social circle. And so as AI progresses, which will assist these call centers, I still believe that when people show authentic empathy and real true interest, a robot can never really stroke your head and make you feel better or give you a real true hug, but a best friend can, and that's priceless. And so a lot of people are willing to go a further distance to a restaurant because they like the owners or they like to know the people and they feel comfy and happy. And so there will always be a market of people that want that. And so as long as you get 0.1% you can still be a millionaire. So I'm not worried about the rest of the market. I'll, as you say, just have my own specific sort of element here.
I don't know if AI can do this, but let's take this interview to Hollywood. Richard, sell me this pen.
Hey, write my name down. Whatever. You know what?
That
For
is
me,
possible. I mean, I asked Charles the same question. He said, I don't care about this pen." Like, there was a printer next to me. He said, "Let's talk about that printer," which was a smart answer. Is there any answer around this? Belfort says it's about probing. You got to ask more questions. Okay, are you in this industry? Blah, 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 right? So is there a way around it, or is it just a tactic?
no, it's preparation. It's due diligence. It's like an exam that you took in school. If you understand the company and their needs, then just the rest is just bingo balls and luck because of their pricing and other people that have to make final decisions. But as I say before, as long as you realize that somebody does have need for something and you start eliminating the fact, it's much easier to buy lists a certain way, adjust a script a certain way, shave time a certain way, so you can hunt properly and find the right places to go. But I mean, if you want to do parlor tricks and stuff like that, that's fine. And as I mentioned, Hollywood, and that's why people find it's funny because of backflips and dancing monkeys. But for me, that's not really real life. Because a lot of the times you'll have the old school Jed that says, no one can sell me. Yeah, but how come you have this tractor trailer? Well, I know this guy for 30 years. There you go. It's like the scientists that, as you say, just keep asking questions on the genesis and the beginning of something. And some guy bought something because of a 30-year relationship compared to some guy willing to do it to save $100. And so you like asking follow-up questions. And I love it too. Because it's shaving and it's the reverse pyramid, right? So there's really nothing left of the hourglass. It's just a couple pieces of sand left. And it's almost like what Sherlock Holmes said, through deductive reasoning, whatever you have left, it's irrefutable. I mean, there's no other option. elephants can't fit in this room. And so I like, as long as you give me the luxury of time, we can continue to do those relationships. And so, or do you want me to memorize 100 cliche catchphrases, which everybody heard? Hey, the only people passing are quarterbacks. Yeah, that's cute. I mean, come on. Take the hit. Do it naturally. Or maybe, how about this? Why don't you create something that's unique and that you feel good with, to give you the endurance and the width and depth to make these sort of phone calls? A singer, an artist, if you're going to go on tour, you better love the music that you're singing and be proud of it. And if you're having a gallery display, this is your work. It's like Joe Cocker singing Help from My Friends from the Beatles. John Lennon said he owned that song afterwards. And so someone can give you a script, but you have to then put it through you so you can perform.
Gotcha. That's an interesting analogy. Yeah. Let's talk about the global market. The market seems to go through a meltdown. Although during COVID, I think sales was one of those industries that retained, just because of the work from home. Everybody had a laptop. Everybody could just, work from a dialer, remote dialer, and all of that. But still, these IT tech giants had a significant drop in their headcount. You work with some of them, specifically in India, right? Concentrix, Genpact, these big boys, the big boys.
That's right.
What are your thoughts on the global BPO industry? India is a big name. How much is Costa Rica stepping up to the game?
We have Amazon, HP, Intel, and Oracle here. We're known for the microprocessing here and the microchips. And we have a beautifully skilled labor force. And we were mentioning prior to the podcast, the relationships that the advanced IT departments have here in Costa Rica when they're communicating with your highly skilled experts in India. And what's interesting is their colleagues. And I see such mutual respect because of the investment that they've all done to learn this language and this technology. And so they're always willing to offer assistance to one another to not only learn, but to fix problems for their own bravado, but also to share. And so it got reduced a bit. I mean, my company took a hit as well. And I also saw that the contact ratios reduced a lot because people weren't at corporate. So you just can't press someone's extension on their IVR. A lot of the times, as you mentioned, working from homes or cell numbers or just no numbers. And so instead of, let's say, hypothetically, making 100 calls a day, the agent would then be making 80 calls a day, because a little due diligence to find a number, or if I had to send an email or leave a voicemail, at least that 30 seconds to 1 minute, we could custom make it. And we've seen, it was a movement of mass to where the contact ratio was less interpersonally, but we were receiving feedback from them, and it almost evened out the metrics because we just reduced these crazy cold calls and just sent better emails or left really choice voicemails. And so the agents enjoyed it because it kind of got them out of the monotony. They could look at websites and see things differently. But how is this industry going? It's surviving still. Is it going to grow again? If commerce keeps growing, but a lot of people are doing these payments online and doing things which are omni-channel non-voice, where they can fill out forms and they can just chat and they can buy things and have relationships with company that are sight unseen. And so in my mind, what we do is a luxury. And what I have is a luxury trade. And you will see that these sort of call centers will be a lot more condensed and very specific in the upcoming years.
Interesting. So would you guys, do you want to focus on Costa Rica exclusively, or do you have plans to expand it? Maybe India. India is a good market because there are a lot of call centers. Maybe you're going to get a lot of talent.
I'm open-minded, my friend. And I think the most important thing is the relationship that I have with my partner that would be introducing me into these, new markets. And so these are the sort of steps that you take prior to making those big decisions. But yeah, I mean, why not? But this is an industry for not the faint of heart. You really need to have fidelity to do it. There are those ups and downs. But for me, I think I received a return on investment of my education. I also fulfilled my childhood needs of adventure and, happily married. So, it took me moving 3,000 miles to meet somebody like this. And so at this stage, I'm cool. And whatever happens, happens. It's just gravy because I believe this is a young man's game. And right now, all I want to do is just pay it forward and promote people and spend some more time. Maybe when I come out to visit you in India, we can chill. And
Absolutely.
and that's very important for me, is to make these sort of friendships and to visit and to show that real interest. But I tell you what, there are no regrets. And when I go back to Philadelphia and I see my friends, we all share wonderful tales and we've all been successful. But what's so amazing is we started one way and then like a ripple in a pond, we all expanded in all different directions. And mine, of course, is the best cocktail story with twists and turns. And so it makes it fun. And that's what life's about, my friend. You get one of these. And I think if you have wind in your sails and current, why row and hurt yourself when naturally things are taking you somewhere? It is a spiritual thing. It really is tapping into that inner desire to live and to drink life and to not hurt others, but to accept, love, and appreciate others. And it makes, and being an owner of a company, most people say that I'm the best boss they ever have. And I say, why? Because you know my name. Come on, man. We're supposed to do that. Give me something even better than that. But people just want that, my friend. Just that sort of dignity. And if that's all they get, then they'll get that in abundance.
Well, particularly you work, on the English market, right?
Yes.
But there is an ongoing the diaspora, the Spanish diaspora within the United States,
Oh, yeah.
the southern eastern part, or something.
All of the United States. But you're talking about the largest concentrations.
Yeah, Los
Yeah.
Angeles, Texas, these places, right?
Right next
Near
to the
border.
Mexican border.
Yeah.
Listen.
How big of it is a market? I mean, is there a business model around that to target that particular, because these people probably are now well off, they have a couple of bucks, and then they could be exclusively sold, products that they might need, right?
A little at a time equals a lot in the end. Yeah, sure, I'd love an ounce of gold, but sometimes panning for gold, you still get the same ounce. And so there
Right.
are some very successful individuals in this market. And also it's just exceptionally loyal. They have a similar culture, similar language. And so I myself, post-grad, when I worked within the Latino market, I got a ton of referrals and a lot of good first impressions because I spoke the Spanish. But think of Telemundo and Univision. I mean, these are tailor-made Latino television stations. I interned for Telemundo in Tucson for 2 years, my last 2 years of college. And so I got to see the huge influence Miguel Quintana and Pedro Sevcek had on the market. These very famous individuals out of Los Angeles that did the news, and Pedro Sevcek was in Miami doing the talk shows. And when they would make their rounds to all the stations, they got a hero's welcome. And so for me, it was very easy to see that sort of relationship they had with their fans in the market. It was almost too easy. And so give it the next 10 years, will probably be the most spoken language in the United States. And in the Southwest, a lot of the things you'll see translated in English and Spanish. So that's kind of a hint of the wave of what's coming. Plus, you're next to the border of Mexico. Put 3 and 3 together. And so if you tailor make that market, if you learn about the culture, even if you take the time to even learn some vocabulary and grammar, that's more than enough to be well received and to giving yourself a chance to start making a name for yourself in that market.
All right, fair enough. Richard, final question. For those budding entrepreneurs, the future savvy, the tech savvy guys, right? Could be from India, could be from somewhere in Nigeria, I don't know. If they ought to start their own call center, okay, what are the steps should they follow? How could they get their first client?
Mm-hmm.
How do you basically build it from scratch?
Best thing is to tell my story. I didn't want to overextend myself. So what I did was I rented a turnkey station at a blended center. Yeah, sure, you're paying top dollar, but it allows you to scale and decrease accordingly. And so they pay for the IT, the water, the coffee, the security. Once again, that's how you can scale. And then secondly, in regards to your clients, in order for me to close most of my deals, I needed to be well versed on what I was offering. And probably one of the greatest traits that I had was no surprises. It's not being a negative Nancy or a Debbie Downer or even a devil's advocate. I got to let you know from time to time, if Billy doesn't show up on Wednesday, what do we do? If you run out of leads, what do we do? These are certain things that I would do preventative measures with people.
What do you do when you run out of leads?
Well, there's preventative measures. I would let them know that we're down to 1 week's worth to the client to be able to get them to order new ones. Or even in the beginning of the list, I can let them know how good the list is to see if it's worth making these phone calls and to continue investing in it. And so these are slicing and dicing things that people aren't aware of. They just think this stuff is like Hollywood. As I mentioned, you give a script, you give a list, the guy makes you $1 million. And so I have to make sure, are we using our predictive dialer? Is it smart dialing? Is it manual dialing? Is it our CRM? Is it your CRM? Who does the QA? Who does the reporting? How long's the talk time? How long's the wrap up time? Is a sort of little thing, email templates, voicemails. And so there's a lot of preparation prior. It's not difficult. We're great at writing training manuals. And so these are the sort of things that your individuals who have either worked at call centers, C-level is only just balancing the books and doing contracts and just making sure you're not breaking the law. But I skipped steps. I went from working at my friend's call center to owning a call center. So I was preserved. I never got tainted through those supervisor manager levels. And so I really saw it from the inside out. I saw 90% of it. And I saw what needed to be done because I could do it undercover. And then I needed specialists, CTOs, human resources, accountants, attorneys, supervisors. And so my trunk of the tree needed branches and roots to expand. So as long as you have people with confidence and good credentials, those are the individuals that you would bring on board to offset any sort of department that you don't have expertise in or you have the time to invest in. And so as I mentioned, I'm a guest here. And so I preferred, besides super, CTO, IT specialist, I preferred to promote from within. It's very easy to mold somebody like a squire to a knight. And also they don't have bad habits. And the greatest thing I have is my company culture. If somebody really wants to be here, I'd love to invest in them compared to a hotshot that comes in, messes things up and jumps out and becomes a cancer. And so there's things that outside affect the agents here. I make sure when parents show up, I talk about them outside. I'm always dressed accordingly. These are the little things you and I might not think about, but go a long way when they go home and how proud their mother is of you because their boss said something nice. And that's what separates me from Jeff Bezos and myself, who's got tens of thousands of agents and a huge presence here. I try to know everyone's name and play pinball with them and invest in their careers. And so by filtering accordingly, because I'm not hiring thousands, I'm about 150, I can be very selective. And doing so, then I created a nice little circle of happiness here. And that's how you build a business, my friend, of non-backstabbers and bad people. You're selective and you see the depth and you make sure that you can make yourself vulnerable with them to see how strong and secure they are. And if you have that, then you can rely on them during the tough times and build a business.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. From 1 year in, waiting to filling out this fake dollar with all the questions. I think we had an interesting one. I'm gonna keep this stored
Yeah.
somewhere so that we could commemorate it. Even if you have a dollar, you could probably, sign something and commemorate this interview. This has been an interesting one. I'll tell you one thing, Mr. Richard. I think your cadence, your way of presenting yourself, your persistence, it transcends sales. It's way better. I think you cannot be labeled as just a salesman or just a business owner. I think you're a good leader. And within that particular, that bubble that you said, that's a good strategy for you, because you oughta influence more people effectively. uh Only, and they do it better when they stay in touch with you closely, right? I think you have a fantastic approach. And all of the viewers, please send Mr. Richard a little love. Where can they find you? Where can they follow you for more tips, tricks, content?
Thank you so much for asking. I have a very large Facebook fan page, about 120,000 local Costa Rican ticos. It's under Costa Rica's call center. So my colleagues, my respected colleagues out there in India, please join our site and make some friends. And once again, when this goes live, I can't wait to put it on there. And a lot more of Central America and get a chance to know you and your amazing work that you do.
Muchas gracias. Muchas gracias. I'll see you guys. Brazil, Mexico, everybody. I look half Mexican, so don't worry about that. So, Mr. Blank, thank you very much. I'll see you soon on another episode. We'll definitely have a chat about other endeavors. And here